One of the most famous businessmen of all time, Jack Welch, was the chair and the chief executive of General Electric from 1981 to 2001. Welch increased the market value of GE from $14 billion to $410 billion, and he had a reputation as one of the top CEOs of all time, even being named Manager of the Century by Fortune in 1999. When he retired, his severance pay was $417 million, which was the largest ever at that time. But Welch was so much more than just a good businessman. He knew leadership. And one of his most famous quotes was, "Before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others." In the first part of episode 2, we discussed the various ways that leadership can be suppressed and what those look like, what those things look like within multiple environments. And then the second part, we're going to touch on how emerging leadership can be grown and empowered and even helped to become stronger so that it can emerge and help your organization regardless of the environment. Welcome back to The Tribe Has Spoken.
Like they're helping to create. So if these people are not put in those positions and they're being passed over, the result for them is that, okay, my ideas aren't good enough. I'm not doing a good enough job here. I'm not respected. I'm not valued, and I am not going to help. I'm going somewhere else, and they'll take that talent elsewhere.
You handed me that. So, I mean, wow. Reach, stick, transfer. The first thing I wanted to address when it comes to how you progress an emerging leader is basically 2 steps: recognition and empowering. And you touched on the opposite of those, not recognizing a person's leadership, ability, capability, and then not empowering them by replacing them with someone, or replacing someone that is not as equipped in a leadership role rather than them. And that really speaks to me, that really speaks to the person's value within your organization. And not the value that you're capable of, that this emerging leader is capable of, but the value that you're allowing them to have, which is stripping them of their superpowers. The positive side of doing that, by acknowledging a person's ability to lead and empowering them to do so, for me, what I've seen, the effect I've seen it have on people is it builds their self-esteem, their confidence, not just themselves, but their ability to lead. A lot of people, you've seen this, you wouldn't be surprised, but many people would be surprised to find that when given a leadership role, a lot of people will be surprised by that. They don't view themselves as a leader. So they have to be empowered. They need that to be recognized. You're also adding to their, and this was your phrase, their leadership resume. Love that. It's their story of leadership. You're helping them get that started, or you're adding to it and to the brevity of it in the middle somewhere, or you're not, which is the side you're speaking to. And then lastly, you give a voice to their validity and integrity when you empower them and acknowledge them as a leader. And what you just got through talking about was a complete opposite of that, actually silencing them. Reminds me of, like, we talk about all the time, and it's like a buzzword or buzz term, cancel culture. I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is, because that leader is a threat to a poor leader. Because if you don't suppress them, they're going to show everybody else how it should be done.
Man, that's pretty powerful stuff there. What things have you done in the past on the pitch, or in practice, I guess, even, to help get those leaders that weren't quite there yet? You mentioned those ones that were Yeah, a little bit surprised. Um, what things have you done to put them in those positions to make them realize that they really are a leader and they do have those capabilities? Something that you saw in them that they weren't comfortable with, or they didn't necessarily realize that they could do at that point. What things have you done?
So the first step for me is observation. As I watch a kid come into the program, even in tryouts, I'm picking out attributes of this kid as a person. And not when they have the ball at their feet, or even when they're between the lines. What are they doing outside the lines? What are they doing during a water break? What are they doing walking in? You know what? Even before that, what are they doing when I say, okay, we're done for the day, look for work, and let's get everything back inside? What are they doing right then? And they'll show you their character. So that's the first thing, is observation. Second is when I see something in a kid, as far as a leadership trait, I try and help them recognize that for themselves, because I'm dealing with a different, I guess, classification of clientele with a younger crowd, and so they may not realize that their ability to sympathize, empathize, and help others is, in fact, boy, I mean, what else is there when it comes to being a leader other than serving people, right? They may not see that as a leadership strength. So when they hear that out loud, I've just added to the validity, I guess you could say, the strength of that trait. I've just emboldened them to use that for a leadership purpose. So those are the first couple of things, and then from there, it really gives us a launching point for how that kid needs to grow their leadership. And from there, I can do things that are completely subjective and ask them to do things that are completely subjective based on their demeanor and their bravery at the time. You got to help them push the line of that. And to progressively move that line forward, like rugby, you got to find the gain line, right? Every time you touch the ball, you better find the gain line. If it's a yard, fine, we'll take it. But same thing with war, right? Can we get one more mile? And so it's the same thing with leadership. Can't get another mile, right? It's not going to be comfortable, but can you do this today? And it's completely subjective. I could give you some examples recently that we've done, is just simply asking a kid that she's not outspoken when it comes to the group. She likes to be outspoken in her circle, as far as being an encourager and being a person that spurs people on to do things that they don't want to do. But she does it in such a way that is so positive that it doesn't sound like you're getting told what to do. But in fact, you are. She is. She's telling you what to do. But my God, it sounds so positive. It doesn't come across like that. And so I've asked her, hey, can you, when we do conditioning at the end of training, you're our height person. I want you to find the people that are struggling the most, and I want you to run with them. And I want you to stay right next to them. And I want you to, if you got to hold their hand all the way, then that's what, they're leading that person to do something that, one, they don't want to do. It's uncomfortable. It hurts. I don't want to be here anymore. And they're making them feel like they've accomplished something. She's making them feel like they've accomplished something, not just survived it.
In a scenario like that, how often does that person feel like that they're actually doing leadership tasks?
Yeah, they don't. They don't see that as that. They don't. But we break these things down for the team after things like that happen. And this goes back to recognition and empowering. I'll say, hey, let's catch so-and-so being great today. Somebody tell me 2 ways that she was great.
Mm.
They saw what was happening. And so to ask them to recognize that. So now not only has this person been validated by not just her circle anymore, but the entire organization, she also recognized that within herself.
Well, there's when we're looking at leadership tasks and leadership functions, there's a couple different ways. There's what you as a coach has assigned to that person as, all right, this is a leadership task. There's what that person takes as leadership. Like, this is something that I'm doing. I'm going to lead this. And then there are the tasks and the actions that the other players see as leadership. And those aren't always the same things. And they also don't mean the same to each one of those groups, and there's probably several things that happen off the field that you as the coach don't even see, which would be an interesting take on exactly what you're talking about. What did that player do off the field this week that showed leadership to you gals? It's something that I didn't see. That would be a real interesting exercise as well.
So we actually do that. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's something I haven't spoken about on any of our shows. We call it CLAWD. It's an acronym, CLAWED. Character, leadership, attitude. Wolverine, which I asked them, what do we embody? And they all said perseverance. I said, I love it. And then effort and development. And so the players get to vote, and the results are only seen by me and my assistant. They get to vote, but they have to use anecdotal evidence of what they've seen based on who is a good leader in the realm of character, who led by their integrity. And then leadership, who did extra. We call it extraordinary effort. So we have another acronym. I'll get to that in another show, but part of it is GLUE. Are you a glue player? You show gratitude, love, unselfishness, and extraordinary effort. Well, to win the leadership award, you have to have extraordinary effort in leading. And then attitude. Have to have a good attitude. Doesn't matter what we're doing. You get to do this today. Did your body language express that? And so there is a description on the form they fill out. There's a description of what I foresee those things looking like. But then in the fine print is add to this how you saw it in your description. And so they fill that out, and they have to provide their anecdotal evidence for why they think these people were these things. And at the end of the week, we recognize the person that got the most votes for these. But we go further, and I take the results, strip away the people that said them, to just for anonymity's sake, and share it with them all. So every single person that did something good that week, in the way of leading by one of these attributes, it's empowered and recognized for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems so subtle, right? When you say it out loud, it seems so subtle. But when these kids get recognized for this, and they are in tears because their teammates saw them.
Mm. I think
the empowering of it.
What you're talking about, the teammates part of it, it's also a benefit for that teammate that their voice is being heard. The things that I said, not only did Coach read what I put down, but Coach told the entire team, and I made somebody else feel that. I made them feel better about themselves. Look what my actions have done to impact, that player that, hey, man, may had a bad week,
We've actually, that is growing organically without me doing anything to facilitate. What I mean by that is, whenever I read those out loud, the girls will actually say, "Hey, I said that. That was me. I said that about you." They're taking pride in that
Mhm.
now. And so, the anonymity at first was to not to make someone feel embarrassed, but they've themselves outgrown that without us having to do
They
anything.
embraced it.
They've embraced it. They're
Wow.
bought in. They're bought into the idea. Yeah. And there's so many other things that, other examples I could give you, and they're such simple things, but when it comes to, you're talking about recognizing someone. Well, that doesn't have to be some magic spell. You're talking about empowering someone. That doesn't take a big grandiose act. You just need to show someone that you believe that they possess this thing and that they can do this thing. It's really that simple. I think too many times, and you can, all you have to do is look on Amazon or Google and just type in the term leadership books. How many results are you going to get? Right. I mean, I think we've made, I think that for a lot of people, leadership still escapes them and how to do it. But when you get down to it, it's really simple. The concepts, rather.
Well, as we start to kind of wrap this up here, the key takeaways for me is that empowering individuals and the ownership of the program, they're very much intertwined. And the inhibiting of their power to perform tasks, to be in those positions, for them to be heard, most certainly inhibits their acceptance of that organization, the culture, and the ownership of the task, the culture, the program. And I think they're very much together. And if you as a head leader are missing doing these tasks, you're missing out on how you are impacting all of those that are around you.
100% guarantee you're right. We, in a previous show, we had discussed the ability to be a mental monster. We call it being a beast of a leader, right? And as I was writing my book that I'm writing, I began to think about that. And as I was writing my second chapter, and it really dawned on me that this mentality that we're talking about having to be a good leader, an impactful leader, and the things that we do, you're spot on. It's not just affecting the people standing in front of us. It's affecting the people they're going to go home to, and not just the people they're going to go home to, the person they're going to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and the people they're going to lead, and even their families. It's affecting what kind of parent they're going to be, or it should. It should.
Yeah, it is funny. I mean, how many of the athletes that you have worked with or trained have gone on to become leaders in a business?
I don't know why we keep having these coincidences. He said earlier this week we shared the same brain. I think you're right. Had our annual inter squad scrimmage last night, and a player I coached, I haven't seen her in 6 years. I've spoken with her often. I coached her in 2013. So it's been a minute since she was a player of mine. Has been through some horrific life circumstances. Didn't have a great jumping off point to begin with. And she and I were, well, first, when she walked in the building last night, we both just, we couldn't stop hugging each other. So that was great. But we were sitting at my house having dinner after the game was over. And I was sitting here watching this person, that I remember as being this little kid on my team And I'm hearing her tell the story of the things that she's had to overcome and the things that, like the mindset she had to have to get through those things, and how it helped her become the person that she is now. And how, even though these things were physically and emotionally traumatic, she's grateful because now her story has led to her helping other people and instilling hope in other people. And that's everything we've been saying.
Well, that's exactly what you're talking about. It's the second, third, fourth order effects of the things that you've put in this person, all the other lives that she's impacted because of the culture that she still carries with her today. That's pretty awesome, man. That is pretty awesome.
She wanted to be a women's advocate, like a women's abused women's advocate in some realm, but she's actually a part owner in a website development company that is uber successful and does the other just on the side, not on the side, that's not the right term, but to just help people. She does it because it's the right thing to do, and she just makes herself available to organizations that can provide that. She just does it because it's the right thing. Right, she's doing it. You talk about, unselfish and selfless. Doing something without getting paid for it. That's, in our society that doesn't happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've really just scratched the surface of this and talked about recognition and empowering. And we really haven't dug deep in how you can add to the realization and shared ownership of leadership.
Well, let's wrap this one up and let's put that one on the back burner and let's dig into that for the next show.
That sounds like a good idea. I think we've given everybody plenty to chew on for today, and to really look at what their role is, because you're one or the other. If you say, well, I'm neutral. No, my friend, you are suppressing leadership somewhere if you refuse to act. So that's the question of the day. And are you progressing or suppressing leadership? Are you Obi-Wan or are you Darth Vader?
I knew you were going to get that one in there.
I had to.
All right. I'm Alan Thompson. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next episode.
Thank you for joining us again at The Tribe Has Spoken. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we really just scratched the surface of the topic of the yin and the yang of how leaders treat and look at the perspective with which they look at emerging leadership. The yin to that, the positive side, would be one, recognizing and acknowledging emerging leaders and their leadership potential, and then empowering that person as a person first, and then also as a leader, so that they not only see how valuable their emerging leadership is to themselves, to the people around them, and their organization, but they feel empowered to continue to grow in that role. And then we'd also looked at the negative side of how emerging leaders are treated, and how those things can look like decreasing validity in that person's role and in that person's position in your organization. Really, we came down to some main takeaways that I'd like to put in the form of questions. One, are you bringing attention to emerging leaders' growth and giving them license and voice to create and then to make those creative leadership roles and protocols that they create known to the rest of your organization, and sharing their ideas, therefore empowering them and sharing their validity with the rest of your organization? Or are you on the other side of this coin Are you stifling emerging leaders' validity by decreasing the importance of their role, passing over emerging leadership talent, and bringing in people or entities even, that are simply tools of conformity that will be quote-unquote yes men and women, and therefore refusing to analyze your decisions because of your ego? We hope that if you're listening to our show, that you are the kind of leader that is going to be giving voice to those emerging leaders, because you want to build that person up and then see their leadership grow within your organization, then lead your organization and continue to flourish. Thank you for joining us at The Tribe Has Spoken. We hope you'll join us next time where we dive deeper into this topic. And I pray that everyone has a blessed week. Thank you.